tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads from over 200 countries and your #1 source in after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
It's free. Very nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Hey, welcome to the Legends After Show, where we're playing yet another Sean Bean theme. What is it? I don't know what it is. Do you know, JB?
I know what it is. I'm not gonna tell you guys.
I have no idea.
I'll leave you in suspense.
Oh, speaking of which, JB!
Hello! I'm happy to be here. Unfortunately, Carrie could not make it tonight, but it's all good because we have so much to talk about.
It's not good. Hey guys, and I'm Dave Klein. So, for our trivia last week, if you guys didn't know the Sean Bean trivia, because the theme, you have to guess what it is in the comments of what Sean Bean theme were we playing. Last week it was the theme to the movie Silent Hill.
Yes.
So
an obscure one. Most people, I didn't know that one until.
But a really good one.
Really good movie too. It's like.
Did you actually see it?
Yeah.
Oh, I had to do a marathon of watching 26 video game movies in a row. Yeah. I did that marathon for charity.
One of the better ones. I mean, that's
Silent Hill was one of the one of 3 that I liked, and it was. I actually really liked that movie.
Yeah.
But it's also an awesome theme. So, let's jump into Legends, though. Another Sean Bean thing, where we start right off with Martin in therapy, being a little rude.
Again, yes, he's being a bit hostile.
Even more so this time than last time.
Yeah, he is not liking this psych eval.
Well, it's definitely like it seems like it really is. It's harder and harder for him to get out of his previous persona, because this does remind me a bit of his previous persona, who was just like didn't take any shit.
Right.
So that's what I picked up. I mean, then it's also the fact that, as the psychiatrist explains to Crystal, like, well, he's having trouble going back into who he is, which that is the entire plot of the episode.
Exactly. And like, I get it. I mean, she seems to call him on everything. Like, he was acting this way because she says that he's like struggling to be Martin Odom again. I mean, and it must be really tough. He's got to abandon this whole life and become someone new that's, you know, maybe not as glamorous and has all these things. Like, Martin Odom doesn't seem to be a guy like you would want to be. Like, his life kind of, for lack of a better word, sucks.
Well, yeah, I mean, his apartment kind of sucks, as they joke about multiple times in the episode.
He's not with his family. Like,
yeah, there's the divorce. But I mean, he has a cool FBI job, so that's badass. His life definitely is not glamorous in any way whatsoever. But I thought it was kind of weird, the aggression level shooting up computer monitor thing.
He was very abrasive.
No, he was, but I mean, the fact that there's like a computer program like, dial me in. That's my aggression level.
He is feeling angry emoji.
Yeah, but that is how we start off. And after this scene, as he leaves, Crystal goes out to grab a drink alone, and Tony Rice comes to hit on her. No, never mind.
Yeah, just
actually, I kind of like that though. That immediately, like, he didn't go into it too hard with the pseudo.
Right, yeah, he didn't play the charade that long, which was good. It was like, okay, like, you know, he used it just for the approach and then did sort of talk about the business. You know, obviously not soon enough, because she was still off-put by it.
Pretty confident, though, that he'd be like, I can just use this hidden on her approach to make it work.
Yeah, and also, I mean, she was way down.
I mean, Carrie would be cool with it.
Yeah, Carrie... She'd be like, why not me?
Yeah.
But, so, you know you would, Carrie.
100%.
Well, she's admitted to it.
I know she has admitted to it.
But yeah, I mean, Allie.
Yeah, she was really down.
She was really down. Like, he was like, yeah, I'm married. Like, sorry. And she's like, well, I mean, does that matter? Because are you married?
You can
right
forget
now?
tonight. Yeah,
we can take a pause from that.
Crystal.
Get a room.
Crystal. You're a little demoness.
She is a wild one. She's a minx.
Yeah.
I mean, she obviously knows her way around the dance clubs.
The poles.
Yeah.
She knows many pole moves. But she, so I kind of thought it was kind of odd, honestly, that, like, she gives him 2 minutes of her time, and then immediately is like, oh, you're talking about Martin Odom. All right, let's do this.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
was
yeah,
like,
she feels very like close to Martin. Obviously, they had a romantic thing in the past, but
I mean, a lot of this was just weird to me because the fact that Agent Rice knows straight from Nelson Gates who is Crystal's direct superior. Like, oh, why don't I go talk to Crystal? I'm sure she will never report me to Nelson Gates in any way or say that I was probing more into it. Because what if Crystal was pissed about this? That's a pretty giant risk.
Very good point. He takes a huge leap, you know, expecting that Crystal is going to hear him out and not, like, turn him in and just...
Yeah, or just say, like, anything.
Nelson, as you were talking about, Gates, if she just was like, yeah, I'm going to tell him that you're, like, on our case again... He'd be toast.
Yeah.
Like, he would be at the door so fast, and, you know, his family might be killed.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be, yeah, exactly. All of that.
Yeah,
all of that. So, yeah, and it's also, by the way, like, Nelson Gates is on vacation all week, so how convenient.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, that's convenient. Yeah. He's just gone all week. So, after that, Sonia shows up at Martin's place with food. So Sonia being Martin's ex, or I guess they're still going through the divorce. I don't think it's official yet, but the papers are through.
Right. I'm not sure where their filings are.
But I think the papers are through and they're going through a divorce. But Sonia being his wife.
They try to be as cordial as possible, and whenever they do talk a lot because they share a son, it seems.
Yeah, and I hear this is actually pretty sweet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're usually, and it kind of. You know, that scene with the dinner when she brings him food, like, that was kind of a nice, like, the happier times.
Yeah. And then he brings up, like, his whole memory problems and all that. We start finding out a new thing that we didn't really know before, which is the memory issue, which is a pretty big deal. And pretty big deal, just a little bit big of a big deal. And we find out, like, a bunch of things here. So one thing is that with him starting to doubt himself, she immediately goes in with... I know your name, Martin McDonald Odom, immediately placing that into him. And then really, really big thing here was that he was hit and run car accident and was in a coma for 3 weeks, has scars all over his body, and has forgotten everything before that incident. Even her, his wife, he had forgotten before that.
Right, and that's sort of the source of all this amnesia and everything, and he, like, has a huge... scar on his hand that he doesn't remember anything about. We've had these memory problems before, and we sort of associated them with whatever, leaving legends behind and having to erase those lives. And, you know, maybe that's a result of that. But also, there's a traumatic car accident she describes of him being in a coma afterwards. It was so bad for weeks, and not, you know, when he came to, he remembered nothing, not even her. And so...
And here's my thing with this episode. Like, a lot of it's awesome. The information that's revealed is awesome. And I really liked up to this point because, like, immediate there, I questioned. I was like, is she in on it? Because we find out that at the point of this car accident, he didn't remember anything beforehand. And here's this girl that just shows up and is like, I'm your wife.
Right.
And it just, like, he's like, oh, he doesn't remember anything. So he just, like, completely accepts her saying that she's his wife, or at least they were engaged or something. Completely 100% accepts that. So you immediately question, like, was she actually beforehand? Was that actually true, or is that a lie?
Right.
So at this point, I was all into it, like the fact that you didn't know for sure.
No, exactly. I mean, I think they led enough. I mean, I think they over-revealed a little bit.
Well, that was my thing. I think they over-revealed this episode, because I think, like, this was perfect right here, this bit of information to let you question it.
Exactly. I was feeling so good about it. I was like, yes, I can totally, like, I wanted to make that leap as a viewer, like, myself, and be like, I totally am team, she is, like, an agent, and, like, the whole thing is a setup to make whatever Martin Odom's, like, life, or to kind of control him a little bit more.
I took a note, I circled it, I was like, is she in on it?
Yeah.
I'm so smart!
I was like, I wrote drunk driver conspiracy. Like, because I thought maybe they planted that story and, like, sort of put her in to kind of sell the whole drunk driving story, which maybe they did.
Yeah.
But I wanted to hold on to that myself and like, come in here and be like, I totally do, like, think that this happened.
I did too. I mean, that was my major gripe with this episode, but we'll get to it as they get to the more revealing too much information, as I thought. But at this moment, I thought it was, like, a great minor amount of revealing, enough so where you feel like you figured it out.
Right,
so.
exactly.
Martin finally at this point is now, like, starting to question all this, and he starts flipping through the pages because he's like, man, that's so weird that, like, I just really can't remember anything before. And there are pages that are marked, apparently, like dog ear tag, and he writes down all the numbers.
In a book, kids. This is a thing of paper bound together. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Oh, you know, you're right. There probably are a lot of kids who use just like
artifact
tablets. Even
with
like
pages and paper.
What? But I just use
Made
my
from
Kindle.
Trees. Yeah.
And save trees.
Exactly.
I don't have a Kindle. But numbers are 203-769-8185. Call it. See where it goes to.
Yeah, seriously.
I should have done that before the show just to see. Anyways.
What was the number?
203-769-8185.
Just marathon call it.
8185.
Yeah.
203-768.
No. 769.
769.
8185.
81.
Yeah, let's check that out.
I'm assuming there's a 1 beforehand as well.
Yeah.
Like 1203.
Area, yeah. Dial.
Right. Skyping it in right now.
Are we really?
Nice.
Yeah, live on air. We're calling the number from.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Live TV, I guess you can call this.
It is live. It's live streaming
It's
right
live.
now.
Live internet.
It says it's connecting. There we go.
Awesome.
Ringing.
Yeah. Oh, boo.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
I'm sure they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
They were probably like, we need to find a disconnected number.
Yeah.
Well, that's
enough.
just... Oh, so this is a fake number. The show's lying to us. I thought this was Dennis Evans' number.
Just, Dennis.
All right, so... Now, Crystal at this point shows up to meet Tony Rice at his... Because she has now decided that she's going to trust him.
Yes.
And she knows nothing about McCombs, nothing of McCombs, and again, just completely like willing to hear him out about everything, as he wants to look into McCombs' psych file. She's like, "Sure, let's do it."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay with this.
Rice does make a good case. I mean, to convince Crystal, obviously, she's like, "Dude, come on! Like we heard this before. Like you can't just come at me with this." But he did make the point that like all the electronics were all turned off at that time. Like there's no surveillance of any of that scene happening, and it's like brand new infrastructure with like the latest technology. So
No, I mean like he's correct. It's definitely
Right. Yeah,
fishy.
no,
I just
yeah,
mean more of my thing is like, why is Crystal just like so open to being like, "Let's do this"?
right, no, true. I mean, for me, that sort of like is very pro conspiracy. Like worth
Yeah.
another look. Being like, okay, like that is a little weird. Like why would all of these systems not be filming this when a guy is like clearly stabbed?
Yeah.
And like Martin's right there. So I think maybe the curiosity was like, oh, like let me just see this like a
Yeah.
little bit, and then they run into all these things.
Yeah.
Like,
Right, yeah,
like
yeah,
Dennis
true.
being killed.
It keeps on building up.
Spoiler.
How did you know? How did you know? We haven't even gotten there yet. I don't know how you knew that. So Martin, though, speaking of Dennis, meets up with Maggie, who now has normal hair.
Yes.
As opposed to her pomp faux hawk.
She dialed it back a little bit, lost the peacock do.
My
slightly.
mom watches Legends, and she was like, that was the one thing to make sure, like, her ridiculous hairdo is God.
It was a bit aggressive and kind of distracting. I mean, I'm all for like making characters unique and giving them personality, but the whole peacock do I think
It's like,
was
I call
a bit
it like
too
a
much.
faux hawk-ish. I was like, I kind of want my hair like that.
But it wasn't like it more in the middle. It was like everything from this whole top
Yeah.
section was like poof.
Well, it's because she's got a lot of hair to play with.
True. I mean,
If you can put it up, it's got a
the
lot of
amount
hair.
of lift that she got is just incredible.
What hair product do you use?
Seriously, just it was impressive.
It was
It's
very
a very
magical.
firm hold.
But it didn't look like gel. It was amazing. It just looked natural.
I don't
What
know,
is
it's
that?
the
I don't
new-
even know.
The new tech.
Yeah, new tech. That's because she's the tech person. She
Yeah.
knows all the new tech and everything,
She's
including
on
hair
the ground
gel.
floor of the hair product department.
Absolutely. So she realizes that 10 numbers has got to be a phone number and looks into it just on her own, so we don't have to go through this finding out process on her own. So she finds out it's this guy, Dennis Evans. She finds his address, everything you could possibly need because she's a tech wizard, and that's what they do. And he warns her, and now all of a sudden, after the death we see in the first episode, Martin's worried for her. All of a sudden, like, you start digging really far, like call the number,
Right.
like all of this stuff, like calling the number gives you a traceable line, like there's all this stuff that could possibly happen, so he's really worried for her.
Yeah, and he saw the previous dude. He asked to sort of help him find extra stuff on the side, and he got murked like
Yeah.
real quick. Like the night he asked him to do
Yeah,
so.
really quick.
So they are watching,
Yeah.
and so he's like asking her to be very careful because she is next.
Don't worry, JB, she's a big girl.
Right.
She's a
and
big
I think,
girl now.
I mean, this time she doesn't know that it is like so off the books with this. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's only told her like, "Oh, I'm following a new lead, but be careful." he didn't tell her, you know, to even keep this off.
Well, right, because I mean, like, he just wanted like something that he thought was really basic. Right. It was like, hey, just look up this number, and then she started digging really deep, and that deeper than he was expecting.
True. I mean, she's very good at her job, and the fact that she did sort of anticipate the questions he'd ask and did that due diligence, you know, in advance is very cool.
Yeah, definitely. So he heads over to Dennis Evans' place, and who immediately attacks him with an axe. Of course.
I mean, you gotta have that hatchet ready.
Definitely. And after Martin tells him his name, he's like, "That's not your real name."
Yeah, he's very like, what do you like when you're on edge? Paranoid.
Paranoid, yeah, very paranoid, and conspiracy theorist to the extreme.
Exactly, and it's like as their background story sort of unravels, we figure out that he knew Martin Odom, or you know whoever he is. They go way back, and something very traumatic happened. They were all stationed in Iraq together. Something went down, and it just messed everyone up. Obviously, McCombs was, you know, clearly on edge.
Yeah, I mean,
to
there's
say the least.
But I mean, like, there's that picture then.
Right. Yeah, they have the photographic proof. He's like, I know you. Here we are. Like, here's you. Here's McCombs. Here's me.
Yeah, and that's all he doesn't remember him at all though, and he's also lost his memory. We find out McCombs has lost his memory, and all they know is the photo.
Right, and he's like, something happened there that changed them all forever.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll save it for predictions.
I was gonna say, and then the date though is the exact same month as the car accident.
Exactly.
And I think the date might have been the exact same too, because I thought I remember February 3rd.
February 3rd. Yeah.
I thought I remember that being the day of the car accident as well, but I could be wrong in that. But it was like definitely like right then, 2004 February.
Yeah,
so.
and the photo it was absolutely February 3rd. I know it kind of flips to a newspaper article. I think it's text written. I think that's for the car crash that supposedly happened, and that would have been, I guess, the same day.
Right. Or at least, like if it wasn't the same day, it's definitely the same month, though. But just, like, a weird, like, it worked out perfectly with the timeliness of it. And then, like, well, we find out stuff later revolving, because it's February. Remember, February, that's important. So February is incredibly important to that, so which we'll go on in a little bit. But he is incredibly paranoid that he's going to die, and he thought everyone else was already dead. I mean, but apparently we don't know, because he didn't think Martin was alive. Right. So we really don't know if he's correct in thinking everyone's dead, because he's just gone off the wire a little bit, thinking everybody's dead.
Right, and he's also off the grid. So you know, if he is completely like silent and you know, like hiding, then you can only assume that more people are too. I mean, I guess he doesn't have meet and greets with everybody from the 04 Iraq team.
And I don't know why, other than like
great party.
Great part, especially with like him acting like that the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh my God, there's all of us here. They're gonna bomb the plows.
Leave the hatchet at home, sir.
So
chips and dip only.
Bring an appetizer. Come on, just chips and just salsa. Just bring your best salsa. Just bring your best salsa, or make some guac.
Yeah. Ooh, guac.
So. He says, "Don't trust anyone, everyone, anyone." And then we get those lines. I think we see Martin's wife again too. As they're saying that, or maybe that's just in my head.
Well, yeah, I know. I think they did have McCombs saying that. Don't trust anyone.
Okay, they said McCombs. But I guess just in my head, I was flashing to his wife because like that's who we
there's
trust.
A lot of flashes, sort of everything, and I think they do that on purpose, just to kind of confuse you and say like, you know, what it's like in Martin's head. He gets all these flashes from different things, and it's like he's got to decipher what's true and what's not.
But McCombs apparently is looking for this guy, Kyle Dobson. And we also got
Kyle.
Something that I noticed too, and it was a very brief flash, but we also see a window shot of him saying this stuff to Martin. And it's just this very quick style in the way that they do the editing, cutting, and the pacing, and the shooting too, where it's like it's all handheld, at least in this scene, where it's like an action scene, they use handheld cameras and make it seem higher paced. And then for the way they were editing, it was like fast cuts, but one of the shots was outside of a window looking at him, and it seemed like a foreshadow to me that someone was watching, or something like that.
I mean, I think they use the cinematography incredibly well in the editing. Like, it really ratchets up the tension. You know, the different scenes and the flashbacks have a completely different whole vibe to them. Like, you know, the filters that they use with the color are correct and everything. It makes it really like intense to watch. Like, all these things are happening and sort of is jarring, you know, to throw you off, you know, what's happening and sort of keep you guessing, which I think is really cool. Like, I mean, just throwing that extra camera outside was probably a little foreshadowing. I mean, we don't have that in normal scenes, kind of something that they just did once as a tool to show that that was different.
Yeah.
You know, even in a small way, it's kind of a cool thing that they, you know, took the time to do.
No, and they do a good job with this. It's very stylized. And after this moment, we come back to Crystal and Tony, who are at the psych ward at this point, and they want to find out and look into McCombs, and that's what the psych ward is for, specifically for McCombs. And we find out that Tony's a bit of a baller, I guess. He's good at his job, as they keep on pointing out multiple times throughout the episode. Like, I'm good at what I do. I'm good at what I do. Good at what he does.
He does not take no for an answer.
Not at all.
He is full court press like all day.
So
I mean, yeah, great. Like, it's good and bad. I think that's an interesting thing for someone of like that cop like authority thing to do, because he definitely has no regard for like, you know, normal laws and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, later he like breaks into Martin's apartment, just like, oh, well, she's like, we can't break in. He's like, oh no, I did.
Yeah.
Like, just busts out his like pickpocket, like his lock kit.
I'd be interested to see a character like his, because he is definitely a character who doesn't take no for an answer and will work his way around and meet with someone who just doesn't give a shit. Yeah. So like, even like say this like doctor, like this psych ward doctor. I mean, obviously for a story you have to move it along, but like if she was just like, no. Yeah. when he was like, I'm gonna evaluate you for this.
Yeah, those are, I read prescriptions for other stuff too.
Yeah, she just had completely just shut him down just to see how he would try and work his way down, because he seems to get what he wants all the time.
Yeah, and he uses intimidation as sort of as his like main move.
So I feel like that would be like him meeting his maker as someone who just does not play off of that.
Right. I think we might get that. I mean, I guess it's sort of a pseudo prediction, but if they win his storyline kind of merges with Martin's, I'm interested to see that dynamic, because Martin kind of does bend the rules a little bit too. I mean, granted, he's given more, you know, free will in that sense. When he is undercover, it's kind of do whatever you have to do. Yeah. But he's done some shady stuff. Like, he tortured a guy to death.
Oh yeah,
like,
and
he VX'd gas someone. Like,
and he'll go rogue. Yeah. Whenever, like, up soon. But the other thing here is, as they look into the psych ward with Evans, and they start actually looking at the tape files, he starts screaming something about raining fire, and it was raining fire, so key word there.
Yeah, it's an awesome operation name.
Awesome.
I was on Team Raining Fire, not a big deal.
Kind of first when he was screaming raining fire, I thought he was just saying like they were attacked or something. And it was like, because I thought he was like, it was raining fire, like looking around as if they were being attacked. But yeah, we soon find out that it is an operation, is the Operation Raining Fire, which, yeah, badass name to be part of.
Super sick.
As long as it's not on you. So,
yeah, just that would not be cool.
We find out a little backstory on Tony, that he was with the LAPD homicide department before joining the bureau. So that is why he's got his cuts. He knows what he's doing, because of the LAPD homicide bureau. And if you ever watched the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal about being an LAPD cop, you know that's hard work.
Oh, what? End of Watch?
End of Watch.
Good movie.
Really good movie.
Really good movie. I was very
glad you remember the name, because I can remember. So, back to Martin. Kyle Dobson is wanted by Interpol. So, and he's with Maggie again, and we find out that Kyle Dobson is wanted by Interpol. There's a sealed file that you need Nelson Gates' permission to get into. So now all of a sudden, like, Nelson Gates, who seemed to be really supportive of Martin and helping him out, and like, even like with the case of when Martin went to him about everything that was going on, he seemed supportive and positive. Right. And now he's his permission is required for this file.
Exactly. I mean, he's always been very pro Martin doing his thing, but now it's like revealing more that, you know, the suspicions of ulterior motives, like what, you know, he's hiding something, like what is, like he's almost too supportive of him and his abilities. Yeah. Like knowing something that the rest of the people don't know, because they're obviously like, you know, trying to protect Martin, like he's not fit for duty, and for like he's overly confident in Martin for some elusive reason.
Yeah, and this is where we find out that Dobson was in Iraq from 2003 to 2006, so his dates align with when everyone else was there.
Part of the crew. I bet he's part of the photo. I mean, I wish they.
Yeah, I wish we
brought that back.
I guess
out.
I should have paused and looked after that. I'm really curious. If someone watching knows, let us know if he was in the photo. Dobson specifically was in the photo.
Pause and do the frame by frame.
Apparently, Varix is this private military contract that he was part of, and that he was doing that kind of like was bad. It was like an undercover bad thing that went down. I'm assuming that he wouldn't, though, because be in the photo, Because it seems like even though he was there at the same time, he wasn't necessarily in the same regimen because he seems to know everything that happened to everyone else. And it seems like everyone else is supposed to be dead and he's not because he wasn't part of that regimen. Like almost like they found out what he was doing and that was the problem.
Or maybe he found out what was happening and sort of bounced out. Because I guess we can just jump into Kyle a little bit. Like, I mean, when they go into his facility, like he's preparing for something.
Oh yeah,
he's mounting an attack.
Yeah, definitely so.
So I mean, he definitely knows more than anybody else in the regiment that we know, like McCombs, Dennis Evans, and Martin for sure, because otherwise he wouldn't be.
Although apparently he'd been
steamrolling ahead.
Although apparently like he's wanted by Interpol. So apparently, like, they know he's doing this type of stuff with weapons. So maybe that's just what he was doing before in Iraq was something weapon-related.
Right.
Too. I mean, maybe that's just his deal. He does weapon stuff.
No, exactly. That's why I think maybe he was on the team that, like, whatever happened with the guys in the regiment, maybe he was on, like, that team and, like, was not about it and cut out. And ever since has gone rogue and trying to... like expose everything. Interesting. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Or we'll talk about more in predictions, and then we can dish about that stuff. But so Len Barlow is who Martin's going to
new legend.
assume. Yeah, new legend. So I was like, another legend. I actually wasn't expecting it. I thought he was just gonna go as Martin, but all of a sudden he's like, I gotta go as Len Barlow. So this other legend that apparently we know the time span was.
Outlaw.
This was 2 years ago, so I'm assuming. I'd assume it was 2 years ago.
What?
Len Barlow when you used that legend. Okay. I would assume. I could be wrong here, but I'm assuming it's the legend that was right before our first legend that we see in the show. So, yeah, the cowboy outlaw is who's going to play as this time around with the southern accent. So
no, yeah, I mean, I know we talked about who our predictions between of like what kind of a role he would take. And I was happy with this. I mean, I was happy with it too. It's very different from everything he's done in the show, like Dante and I forgot the first.
I'm forgetting too.
Yeah, well, his other legends is very different. You know, and it's cool to see him nail the accent again too. Like
I was gonna say, I think the key to new legends is they have to have different accents.
Right.
That's the one thing that it has to have.
And Sean Bean just knocks it out of the park every time.
So next time he's gonna be an Irish, something Irish, I guess. Just so
I was worried for a second because when he has drinks with his old, like, I guess, CI informant, he has his, like, British accent.
Yeah, I was confused.
No, like, is that, like, maybe they wrote the scripts and re-edited it so, like, you know, that would play later?
No, when that happened, I thought the exact same thing. I was like,
isn't he supposed to be
is there supposed to be a southern accent? Because I'm not hearing it. Maybe he's doing a poor job acting. And I just, like, he did the southern accent great before. I'm not hearing it right now. Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. It was just pretty funny. But, so... After he heads out with Len Barlow, this is when Martin and Crystal, Tony knows that Crystal and Martin had a relationship.
Yes,
because
he does his research.
He does his
maybe logged on Facebook or something, saw photos.
Yeah, he's like, I saw there was one photo of you together and then I did like some like hacking in my own, and it turned out that you guys were like relationship status for one day. Yeah, and it was complicated for 2 days on Facebook.
He is, very into his job.
That's like, this was one of the, like, I could understand a lot of things. I guess, like, he would know that Martin and Crystal had a relationship because of the way she responded to actually going with them and actually having an interest in Martin. Maybe that's how he's telling. Because, like, other than that, it's just, like, he hasn't even seen them together, like how they react to each other, act with each other together.
Yeah, I think maybe he was looking through has been looking through all of Martin's files and then saw the overlap and sort of, you know, the office fling was...
Because that's something you mark down in your files.
Right, but I mean, like, the FBI, like, records everything. I'm sure that, like, if he was looking through all of the files, like that, like them working together and something. Like, I mean, and they may have
JV has an office fling right now. I'm gonna put that in my files so everybody knows.
Check the security footage. But no, I mean, they could have been more like publicly an item. We just know that they had something. Yeah. And people know about it because even I mean the Nelson Gates knew about it. Like he sort of like makes these like offhand.
But I feel like Nelson was.
How do you think about? What do you think about Martin?
I feel like with Nelson though, it's more like a suspecting thing because he works with them in the same office with them and sees them together all the time. Whereas someone with Tony doesn't even work in the same office, and like this is the first time he's ever met Crystal. And Martin, he briefly met for like
True.
5 minutes. So that's why.
Yeah. So I guess he's just extremely good at his job.
He is so good at his job. He's the best.
He reads between the lines quite well.
And he can break into door.
And he just keeps a lock pit.
Which is where they once again start griping about Martin's. So again, Martin's unglamorous life, as we talked about at the beginning, the fact that he doesn't have a nice apartment or anything. But they do find that, or actually, sorry, this is before that. There's been a break-in. I'm ahead of myself. They're like 10 steps behind Martin, and this is where they go to Evan's place. And there's been a break-in there, and they find a finger and an axe on the table, and his head as he is suffocating. Or has suffocated and is dead.
Right, yeah.
So Evan has died. So they're behind at this point. I mean, they're always behind, but they're like further behind at this point.
Right.
So after now they have discovered Evan, this is when we have Houston, Texas, in that scene that we were talking about with Martin. And Martin meets up with Chang, who apparently 2 years ago was his informant. And Martin's got him by the balls.
Yeah, and so he sort of arms him into helping him. He gives him a small lead into a girl, like Dobson's girlfriend.
Yeah.
So he kind of sets him up at the bar where she's at.
See, this is kind of where I thought, okay, so it was 2 years ago since Martin used Chang. So that's why I figured, like, okay, well, maybe Len was a persona from 2 years ago.
Right.
That was kind of where I got that from, was in this moment there.
But yeah, Chang does know Martin as Martin.
Yeah.
Because he even reconfirms that when he slips up.
Right.
When he's leaving, he's like,
yeah.
Martin. I mean, Lynn.
That was like, I kind of needed that confirmation, honestly.
Exactly. It's like, okay, great.
I mean, the reason I needed that confirmation was more just so because I was like, did he slip up on the accent at the beginning? So, yeah.
I mean, it was great to have because, I mean, working in TV like you and editing stuff, you know that like stuff does switch around. There's a lot of story. I mean, there's a crazy amount of storylines happening all at once. And it's great to see that kind of pre-planning was put in place. So it does happen as they wanted it to. It wasn't like, oh, well, can we make this work out so it does this?
Right. And yeah, so Chang again. There's like something I keep wanting to say and it keeps on slipping and it's like driving me crazy. I'm like, what is it I was gonna say?
Totally, Chang and the intro.
It's probably not that important. It's just driving me crazy.
Well, it was interesting that I think that where are they in LA? They're in like the 4th largest city in America, they say.
Well, now they're in Houston.
Okay, Houston.
Oh,
okay.
I remember what I want to say.
Nice.
I found it interesting that Martin was strong-arming Chang at this point because we don't really know much about Martin's character. We know about all these personas he's taken, and like this seems like something one of his personas would have done. Especially like his drug lord persona from last week. Like that would have been a very persona to do that type of strong arming. So that was the other reason I was kind of surprised that it was Martin during this scene, was more so because of his character and how his character was acting. Because he always seemed like, outside of his psych evaluations, he always seemed like a pretty nice guy. Like he didn't seem like someone who would do this type of thing to someone, like strong arm them into something.
Right.
So that's more of what I wanted to bring up. I was just surprised by his actions and to find out about who he is.
Interesting point. Yeah, I mean,
because that was apparently this is very who he is because he's done this type of stuff to Chang before. Chang's like, oh, not again, man, not again.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's why I think it was fitting that Chang knew him as Martin because I think, you know, originally Martin probably goes in, meets them via like a legend, and then turns them and sort of does reveal that he is like Martin Odom, and like to get them on board, like I'm the FBI, like you gotta help or I will pull the plug,
or prison.
Yeah, exactly, and which was the same case with, I forgot her name, the woman, like bomb arms dealer.
You
know, he revealed
Anna. Amy? I think it started with an A.
Anyways. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, her.
Last
she
week.
was, so last week, you know, he turns her by admitting everything. He's like, yeah, like, you know, do you want to know my real name? She doesn't want to, but, like, he would have said Martin. And had she lived, she would have been probably an informant or something. Or, So actually, that's a good point. That's likely Chang was a former. Because he also says, like, oh, I thought I was done with you. Like, I thought I'd never see you again.
Right. Like, because he did his due diligence. So doing his due diligence again for Martin. But before that happens, that's when we get that Maggie is looking up phone history for Evans for Crystal and Agent Rice. So now, like, once again, Crystal and Rice are behind. But I just thought it was, like, interesting that now Maggie's doing the exact same thing that she was doing for Martin for Crystal and Rice. So, and she doesn't reveal anything to them. She's actually pretty numb, or mum. Mum would be the word. Mum for them.
Right, yeah, it was interesting to see her kind of not, like, emote, really.
Yeah, it was also more just, like, I guess that's where her allegiance lies is with Martin. Or she's just, like, doesn't want to take any sides.
Yeah.
I mean, Martin, like, highly warned her, like, this is really dangerous. Don't say anything. So maybe she's also just afraid to actually get involved further. Or just knows her place, like, I should not get involved any further and reveal what I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you gotta kind of be walking on eggshells anyway.
Especially now that, like, she gets, like, the same people looking for the same leads that Martin has just explained for you is incredibly dangerous. That's when you'd be like, oh.
Yeah, just pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, look over your shoulder.
But she's not able to give them any information because he was a blank slate. So that is when they head into Martin's house and Tony busts in, where they find a piece of paper with Len Barlow written on it. I don't know why. Martin was like, Len Barlow, all over, like, papers and stuff like that.
And when she goes into the bathroom, she sees basically the notes of his, like, family tree that he's trying to, like, you know, use flashcards or something, not, like, old receipts in your bathroom mirror.
Well, I guess he wasn't expecting anyone to break in.
True.
But,
no, that's true.
But if people are maybe out to kill him or stuff, trust no one, as McComb said.
Yeah, he's really got to heed that warning a little bit more.
So Crystal goes, he's gone rogue. And that kind of wraps up their point of the storyline. And yeah, so part of the reason that we're going back and forth with the two different storylines this episode is because it's this, like, this chase almost where...
Right, they're kind of parallel stories, basically, as they both kind of figure things out. And like you just said, they're, Rice and Crystal are sort of just a step behind. Yeah. You know, if they were there, like, a day earlier, they could have caught Martin and... Dennis Evans, like, having that conversation, like, having it out.
So, I mean, that's kind of why I thought I wanted to bring up that. So, or why we're doing those two storylines the way we are. So, anyways, we're now in Houston, karaoke night with Martin, as Martin shows up as Len, quite the charmer. Yes. Doing those winks, plenty of winks, super smooth.
Sweeps her off her feet.
Absolutely.
And totally, like, shuts down that dude, like, just...
Yeah. So, for Tara...
He gets told. Like, it was a pretty baller moment.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We'd expect nothing less from Sean Bean.
Len, the cowboy. He just does that with any persona he is.
Right.
Any persona, except for the first persona that we saw him as, who would not have been able to.
Yeah, exactly.
But every other persona, like, is
But yeah, and it was cool to see, like, that scene, like, made sense, you know, with that storyline. Like, it was a girl, so it was perfect that, you know, his character... Barlow, you know, just kind of waltzes in, like, doesn't really care about, like, you know, he's very forward, very, like, upfront, and, like, is not afraid of confrontation or anything. Yeah. He's just like, I am headstrong, I will, like, this is what's up.
Well, I mean, we also get, like, he's a true cowboy, and, like, also in the sense of he's good with his aim. Yeah, he's a straight shooter. So, Shane now, at this point, has done his part of the deal. He pieces out, we're good, and that's where we really realize, like, yes, he knew Martin as Martin. And... this is when Sonia calls, and kind of odd timing.
Sonia,
really odd timing, in my opinion. And then
exactly, and it was interesting because it was right after they had that, like, Rice and Crystal had that conversation, like, oh yeah, we need to, like, check in with him, like, and that's why I thought, you know, like, that was enough. Like, the call was, you know, basically confirming everything. Yeah. That, like, she was totally in on it and, like, part of the check-in on Martin team.
Definitely. I thought so, too. Like, the call was enough. And then we get the line, the really important line, that February of 2004, of that exact year, Martin was supposed to take her to Hawaii.
Exactly.
For Valentine's Day. But
sweet guy.
February 4th, or was the day that, or February 3rd, he was in Iraq. So there's no way they could have possibly had Valentine's Day plans. So that immediately right there says everything, like, even more so than the car chase, or the car. It's just like, no.
Yeah, he's like,
that's not possible.
Definitely got the photographic evidence to the contrary.
Then we get the scene that I hate so much.
No. Oh, so I wish.
Like,
I mean,
the phone call was already on the nose. That was on the nose enough.
Exactly. It was exactly like that. I was so happy with that. I was like, yes, it is confirmed. Like, Carrie's gonna be thrilled because she totally predicted that. Like,
yeah. And then how was that?
Expecting to hear that, and like, I was just like, no, like they gave too much. I love when they keep you guessing. They've done a great job with that so far.
Yeah.
Kind of giving us little cookie crumbs to kind of pick up. But I think they went too far, and they kind of admitted, you know, they showed us the hand, like their hand, and they're like,
yeah,
oh,
like,
yeah, like
as soon as she like looked and went like, yeah, how was that? It's just like, come on, like, trust your audience. Trust your audience a little bit.
I know.
I hate when TV does that thing where they cater, like where they think assume everybody watching is stupid. It drives me crazy. And to me, that's what this is like, our audience has to be stupid. So let's like hand feed them everything. Even though I was just complaining about knowing Chang was that's what I didn't think. But still, this series is an extreme thing of just like,
yeah, no, it's a balance. It's a delicate. It's a a line that I certain things I wish we were not spoon fed. And I think that they did enough where they didn't need to have like that blurry image of like that person like sitting watching and her saying like, oh, was that good enough? Like clearly like she was put up to the call. Like they didn't need to confirm that. Like I think how the call went and the fact that she was clearly lying about what she was telling him was enough for us to put together, okay, something is amiss.
Yeah, but that how is that line just drove me crazy? I mean, honestly, I didn't even think they needed the phone call. It was fine. Right. Like, okay, let's get this reconfirmation here. That was fine. That was already on the nose to me. That how is that? I was just like, oh.
No, you blew it.
Yeah, you blow it. So... anyways, Len ends up picking up and beating up Tara's friend and then takes her out because she's all for him now. Takes her to meet up with Dobson because that's what any guy flirting with you would be like, let's go hang out with your boyfriend. Yeah. Yep.
We'll pick up a case of beer. We'll be fine.
That's absolutely what I would do. So they go get the beer, hang out. Turns out that he is an arms dealer or something because he's preparing missiles or door prediction.
A bit shady. I mean, they go to a back room, secret knock. It's her, like,
and there's missiles.
Yeah, just covering up like, like huge missiles.
So these neo-Nazi-looking giant built bodyguards are, I guess they're not neo-Nazis. I don't see any Nazi tattoos, but. Just these giant built bodyguards are there, and everything's quiet. And then,
classic goons.
Right, very classic goons. And then Dobson recognizes Len Barlow, and just like, I recognize faces. I don't know what your name was, but
he's like,
he immediately realizes that he knew him from 10 years ago in Iraq. So that actually gives us a timeline right there. So this is actually modern day, 2014. 10 years ago in Iraq was 2004. Right. This is 2014. So it's been 10 years since that incident. So now we have a timeline, which is also pretty cool. But yeah, so he says that he knows him and immediately recognizes him and that they weren't friends, apparently. So, and he's supposed to be dead. So, he's supposed to be dead. They're not friends. Lots of information here immediately revealed from Dobson.
Yeah, it was interesting because, he was so abrasive, too. Yeah. Like, he recognized them, but it was also, like, in a negative tone. Like, he was about to bust out his gun and probably, like, shoot to kill, pretty much.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
they ended up getting into the whole firefight.
It absolutely would have been shoot to kill.
Yeah, and Martin just murked everybody, which is cool.
Yeah, which I was like, apparently your Iraq training didn't pay off. Did it, Dobson? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the goons for hire
the goons for hire
are not quite as up to the caliber marksman as the FBI agent.
They look intimidating, but when it comes to a gun, it really doesn't matter how big you are.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter when there's a gun to play.
Guns, yeah.
So, yeah. So,
but, even Dobson was kind of, for like kind of just smacked around a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
totally. I mean,
so that's why I think it confirms what we were talking about earlier with him not being part of the regiment that they were in because he's clearly not up to the military skills.
Well, that was what I was thinking, was that he wasn't part of the regiment.
Yeah,
so,
I think that I agree with you. I think he's not. So I'm on Team Dave for that.
Yay! Yay! Okay, so anyways, beats him up, smacks him around, and then gets him in the car, and then Dobson doing the typical forewarning of, like, you picked the wrong person to mess with. And we see just Len being an all-out badass until all of a sudden his car gets slammed into the side.
I know,
and that wraps up the episode.
Crazy. It was a nice way to leave some cliffhangers in a very, like, intense, after the battle scene, where Martin just kills everyone.
Yeah. So, let's go and talk about predictions.
Yes, let's.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV
That's another $5, JB.
Yeah, it's adding up. It's the Predictions Light Show Fund.
Ah, okay. So it sounded like you had a lot of predictions you were ready to go off
Yes,
on.
well, I mean, yeah, the first one I think is just with the car.
Yeah.
Do you think, because the whole crash incident, you know, they bring up before with the so-called story of what happened with the coma incident, you know, do you think that is part of the conspiracy people that, you know, have been monitoring them and crashed into the car because they knew that they were sort of mounting an attack?
I think absolutely. I mean, the real question is if the crash actually happened, which I guess it would be, because that's why the papers were reporting it.
Right.
In a coma. But I don't know how they could plan that he'd be in a coma and then let him live. Like, I think they'd somehow let him die. I'm just surprised they let him live after that. If the point was to kill everybody.
Yeah, it's very confusing. I think that my guess to whatever experiment, whatever happened, I think they tried to like erase their minds, like everything, like they made them do some gnarly stuff,
right?
And wanted to like erase those memories, and so they did that, but they didn't factor in, of course, classic experimenting FBI,
right?
Like what it would do to them, and you know the post-traumatic stress disorders and stuff. How crazy they would become.
It's also strange to me that they for some reason decided let's give him a wife,
right?
Who is also willing.
Yeah, I think that
she's like, okay, I'll do it. And
it's you know, it reminded me kind of like Men in Black. You know, when they like neuralize them, and they're like, okay, this is what happened. Like they gave him a backstory, which you know, to me, what is Martin Odom? Like you have a wife,
right?
That's what I was thinking. Do you think the kid, Aiden, is part of that? Like, you know, obviously the wife is.
How old is Aiden? That's
exactly. So he's young-ish. He could be less than 10 or just about 10. Like, he could have, after the coma, had a little, like, you know, life. Like, let's, you know,
I'm curious about that, too. Because it's like Aiden obviously wouldn't know anything, would assume it's his father.
Right.
But I do wonder that. Because it's really strange, too, to me. It's like, why would this woman be like, all right, cool, I'll just, like, hook up with this guy and pretend to be his wife and have a kid with him and all that stuff. Like, it's pretty extreme.
Yeah, no, very extreme. But on the other hand, like if it's part of the conspiracy people, like they've clearly got a number of assets and can kill you like anytime.
Yeah, so
if it was between life and, you know, pretending to be married to Martin Odom, or I guess divorcee.
I would never pretend to be married to Sean Bean. Ugh, gross.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either. But
I'd choose JB.
Pretty cool. He's pretty cool.
I choose JB. Yeah, so it's like, it's odd. So it does really make you question a lot of like, well, why and like how did they make those choices? And also, it's like to me, the biggest question is why Sonia chose to do that. Like, why is she okay, and what brought her to do this? So I mean, is she part of the cover-up crew? Is it maybe something where they threatened her? Maybe it's like she was like, well, I've got a kid, and this is someone to take care of my kid. I don't know. It's a lot of questions for that. And a lot
of questions. Yeah, I mean, I love how we got. This was one of those episodes where it was mostly that sort of backstory stuff, which we got some answers about. But honestly, it just gave me more questions.
No, I mean, I enjoyed that about it too. I like the fact that there was a lot of backstory stuff this time. But yeah, and then as far as the car goes, it looks like I don't know.
It's gonna be a little dazed.
It's gonna be dazed, cause I mean, it seems like he's like arrested or something. There are cops there.
Well, yeah, I mean, cops should. That was a nasty crash.
Yeah.
They should definitely be investigating that. Like, maybe it was an accident, and he'll come to and sort of drag Dobson like to the side and be like, dude, like we got to talk.
Yeah, yeah, the question is he even gonna have Dobson anymore? Is he gonna disappear?
Yeah, or maybe Dobson died. Like I think.
Or I mean, maybe he somehow goes off the grid again.
Side.
Yeah.
So like he could be.
I mean, I thought I saw Dobson talking in the previews, but But I mean, the question to me is like, is he gonna somehow disappear before he can get questioned by Martin?
Right. Well, I think so. It's Sean Bean. He's very he's very elusive.
All right, but guys, we will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, I'm Dave Klein. You can find me on Twitter at the Dave Klein. That's Klein, not the Yave kind. The Yave kind.
You guys can find me at JB_Zimmerman on Twitter and Instagram.
And we'll see you guys next week. Later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.